Welcome to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Sprint Report to the 2021 annual sessions of Philadelphia Yearly Meeting. The Administrative Council approved creating a sprint charged to form recommendations about governance and education for structural change in order to realize our 2015 minute on addressing racism. The sprint was charged to look at the 2016 Undoing Racism Group proposal, best practices, and similar structures for inspiration. View the full report on the PYM website at pym.org/sessions. When members of the sprint spoke with those we consider to be our elders in realms of racial healing and wholeness, these elders responded that they are not willing to work with us unless we reckon with recent harms and make space for truth and transformation. Thus, this proposal also includes such a process for truth-telling and deep listening. Speaking of the process, it had several phases, beginning with the formation and focus, on to feedback on the process itself, then to interviews, then learning, and then finally the proposal. The formation and focus had a shift. There was a desire to reach as many voices as possible, so we shifted to an interview format, and we also solicited feedback on the process and on the proposal through the Undoing Racism Group listserv and the Anti-Racism Collaborative. Feedback itself is extensively listed in the written version of this proposal. Some highlights are that there was concern the sprint includes only members of leadership and staff. There were also queries shared, which includes, were people being interviewed connected to past harms? Did people being interviewed have the right experience? And is the Anti-Racism Collaborative being manipulated or ignored? Finally, are members of ERG being unduly represented? The interviews themselves over 12 months between May 2020 and May 2021 included reach outs to about 30 people. Most of them did not respond or declined to be interviewed. 8 people were interviewed, 6 were white, 2 were BIPOC, and 2 or 3, depending on who is counting, of the 8 people were also former members of the Undoing Racism Group. Points of learning from the interviews, which can also be gleaned much more extensively from the written reports. Here we have a few highlights. That PYM has a pattern of polarization, that racism does not show up in only one way in our community. We require profoundly deep listening and truth-telling. There needs to be pastoral care available to all. We need a group of people who help us hold our addressing racism commitments, and our work needs to embody ongoing reparations practice. Finally, the process culminated in this proposal. The 2016 proposal from the Undoing Racism Group is referenced throughout this proposal. The 2016 proposal can be found in full in their written version in Appendix A. While ERG's 2016 proposal is not under consideration, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Sprint proposal is rooted in many of the insights of the Undoing Racism Group, to which we owe, as a whole yearly meeting, a great deal of gratitude, healing, and repair. Over the past year, the Anti-Racism Collaborative has worked intensively as well to discover and support the work of anti-racism happening in every single monthly meeting and our yearly meeting. They have been a valuable partner to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Sprint, and they contributed a great deal of feedback on this proposal. We envision the collaborative playing a pivotal role in any forward movement together, and they have endorsed this proposal. Breaking the cardinal rule of not having too many texts on a particular slide, we did feel it was very important to mention both ands, which is a concept we get from addressing racism, the elements of the coming work that need balance. We identified three important ones, although there are probably many others. First, the perfect is the enemy of the good. If we waited until we felt like we had the most perfect thing to do to move forward, we probably would never start. Yet we still must move slowly enough so as not to miss important insights into the root causes of harm within our yearly meeting. We also need to create space for truth telling, in which those who have experienced harm may receive deep listening, but we should avoid re traumatizing people of color simply for the sake of white people's growth. Finally, entering into a process like the one being proposed here involves pain and fear, and also joy, hope, and love. The proposal itself begins with appointing midwives, 2 or 3 midwives with deep experience in racial justice and organizational change, appointed by the Administrative Council and with the support of co-presiding clerks, will lead the truth and transformation process. They will serve until the process has concluded, approximately 1 year. We opted for the term of midwife because it is conjuring imagery specifically from verses found in Paul in the Bible. It connects us to the overall sense of joy, hardship, anxiety, and pain associated with the spiritual process into which we are being called. The term midwife is also feminist and intentionally queers Quaker process in a way that helps open us to new ways of thinking and being, which we know will be profoundly necessary as we move forward. Some goals of the truth and transformation process are that we will engage in one for a year. It will surface patterns of harm and various harmful dynamics in our yearly meeting. It will be based on the process developed recently by our Ministry and Care Committee, rely upon trusted facilitators, culminate in the renewal of our commitment as a yearly meeting to the 2015 Minute on Addressing Racism, and a vision and mission for racial justice, which will expand on that original 2015 Minute. It will most importantly perhaps include, as we've mentioned, truth-telling and deep listening. The truth and transformation process will end in the appointment of racial justice holders, which will be informed deeply by the truth and transformation process. The racial justice holders will have a very specific set of charges, which are listed in the written version for facilitating mutual accountability for addressing racism in the yearly meeting. We are aware that the truth and transformation process may end up shifting some of these, but we still wanted to be specific. The racial justice holders charge as of now will include being empowered to seek a review of decision-making processes before they are final, should that be deemed necessary. They will report to annual sessions. They will serve as key advisors and provide leadership in our work to become an anti-racist, multicultural community and organization. They will make use of financial resources, approve use of resources and trainers, partner with staff when appropriate, ensure regular trainings for governance, learning and continuing annual sessions, and regular assessments of our yearly meetings progress. They will also curate that vision and mission for racial injustice we expect to be developed by the end of the truth and transformation process, adding to it more specific strategic goals that we can use in our work together. Finally, the diversity, equity, and inclusion report and proposal ends in an additional recommendation that was outside of its charge per se, yet we still believe that we as a yearly meeting require clearer processes of accountability within our governance. And that with clearer processes, the implementation of what is contained within this proposal or other versions that end up getting approved will be even more likely to succeed, along with many other things that we are trying to accomplish as a yearly meeting. Members of the sprint were Jean Marie Prestwidge Barch, Oscar Castro, TJ Jurian, and Zachary Dutton.